part of, and I'm one of LAMSA's ambassador. Sorry, can you hear me? Tout le monde m'entend? Okay. So, hello everyone. My name is Aya Hajj, and I'm one of LAMSA's ambassadors. And today I'm going to talk about sexual abuse and how to educate and advocate toward the end of sexual abuse. So I'm just going to give you guys a few minutes to go through the topics we're going to tackle today. A few seconds, sorry. Okay. So let's start with some facts about violence against women to give you an idea about the importance and gravity of the situation. So globally, an estimated 1 in 3 women have been subjected to physical and or sexual intimate partner violence, non-partner sexual violence, or both at least once in their life. And most violence against women is perpetrated by current or former husbands or intimate. So globally, violence against women disproportionately affects low and lower middle income countries and regions. So talking in numbers, 81,000 women and girls were killed in 2020. And if you pay attention, so 2020 is the year of the pandemic, and we're gonna go into more depth in that later. So around 88% died at the hands of an intimate partner or a family member, which equals to a woman or a girl being killed every 11 minutes in their home. So there is initial evidence of intensification of violence against women and girls across the globe. And reports from service use data in different countries have shown an important increase in reported cases of domestic violence to helplines, women's refugee shelters, and the police linked to COVID-19. So calls to helplines have increased 5-fold in some countries. And by October 2021, 52 countries had integrated violence against women and girls prevention and response into COVID-19 plans. And 150 countries have adopted measures to strengthen service for women survivors or violence during the global crisis. So continuing efforts are needed to ensure the recovery responses fully integrated ending violence against women measure to build a post-pandemic equal world. So you may ask, why does domestic violence has intensified during COVID? So this increase in number really shows that there are unintended consequences to some of the lockdowns recommended by global health experts to address the pandemic. So of course, there are good reasons for lockdown to protect public health, but we have to recognize the bad impact as well. So the unintended impact, I would say. So that's not to say that we should not have lockdown, but there must be focus on resources to address those secondary impact as well. Sorry, I'm just admitting someone. Okay. So a lockdown increases the risk factors for domestic violence in multiple ways. So there are more financial stressors because of income loss due to unemployment. There is also the loss of the ability to have breathing spaces for people who are in risky relationships. And when people are working outside their home, interactions with their partner are limited to a certain hours of the day. And the potential time for conflict is also reduced. However, in the lockdown, not only do you take away those breathing spaces, but you also increase the dynamics where domestic violence can occur. And also beyond that, during a lockdown, the ability to get help is limited because you don't have the private space to call somebody, and you're isolated from your support system as a victim or a survivor, and you can't access your family and friends, the people that you rely on, because of the movement restrictions. Now, in the majorities of countries with available data on this issue, among women who do seek help, most look to family and friends, and very few look to formal institutions. And of those who actually look for help, less than 10% seek for police help. So unawareness of the impact of abuse on themselves and their children, unfamiliarity and negative experiences with professionals, and fear for their partner hampers abused women to seek professional help. And current studies reveal that abused women need informal support by family and friends to ask for professional help. So it's first informal and then formal. And current health care does not fit into the needs of abused women during the abuse because they want more practical support. And after the abuse, they need psychological help. So in a nutshell, women do not are afraid to seek help because they are unaware of the negative consequences of intimate partner violence. The physical and mental well-being of themselves and their children causes them not to ask for professional support. And abused women view informal support as important in the changing process. Thus, family physicians need to be trained to pay more attention to informal support and to be alert to children's and their mothers' well-being and, of course, their mental health. Now, violence against women is a pandemic by any measure, and the repeated failures on the part of the nation to provide meaningful resources for victims and entrenched gender violence has led to growing calls by national and transnational actors for the adoption of stronger gender violence legislation in all countries. So consequently, several important questions arise regarding the adoption and strengths of domestic gender violence law, including what laws protecting women from gender-based violence currently exist and how strong are these protections? Then, what differences in gender violence laws exist across countries and what influences the adoption and strengths of gender violence law? So as you can see in the map in green, Europe and North America display the strongest overall legal protections. Further, it is also important to remember that the map reflects law and sadly not practice. And one of the findings in this regard was that when women possess greater economic decision-making power, law enforcement personnel appears to be more regularly enforced in violence against women protection. As you can see in the map also in red, the weakest legal protection are found in Western Asia, which accounted for 21% of the countries worldwide, receiving a 0 for marital rape law in 2010. It also accounted for 44% of the countries worldwide that received a 0 for legal protection against domestic violence in 2010. Western Asia's share of this poor score is even more remarkable considering that it comprises only 10% of the countries in our sample. Now, there are several potential pathways between risk factors and violence against women. The theorized pathway with the strongest correlation and supporting evidence across settings are summarized in this figure. So structural characteristic observed in many high prevalence settings, including armed conflict, gender inequality, widespread poverty, exposes large number of people to violent events, increasing mental ill health and consolidating acceptance of violence as normal. And this subsequently instigates violence against women when interpersonal relationships are arranged patriarchally and interpersonal conflict is triggered. Example via harmful alcohol use, food insecurity, and stigma. So this conceptualization of how area level risk lead to the use of violence within interpersonal relationship contributes to the recent discussion of how risk factors for violence against women may be interrelated. So, sorry, also I might refer as violence against women as VAW because it's shorter. Okay, so VAW can result in significant cost to the state, to victims, to survivors, and communities. So costs are both indirect, and tangible and intangible. So for example, the cost of the salaries of individuals working at shelters are direct, tangible costs. So costs are borne by everyone, including individual, victims, survivor, perpetrators, and the government and the society in general. So if we take Vietnam, for example, both out-of-pocket expenditure and lost earning represent nearly 1.41% of the gross domestic product, which is the final value of the goods and service produced within the geographic boundaries of a country during a specified period of time, so normally a year. So more importantly, regression results from estimating productivity loss due to violence indicate that women experiencing violence earn 35% less than those not abused, representing another significant drain on the national economy. Another example is Egypt. It was estimated that 250 working days are lost each year due to marital violence and the health sectors, which bears over $40 million in cost. Also, in 2021, the cost of gender-based violence across the European Union was estimated around 366 billion euros in a year. So violence against women account for 79% of those costs, amounting to 289 billion euros. So sexual violence against women and girls. So globally, 6% of women report they have been subjected to sexual violence from someone other than their husband. And 15 million adolescent girls worldwide from 15 to 19 have experienced forced sex. In the majorities of countries, they experience this forced sex by their current, former husband, or even boyfriend. And in the Middle East and North Africa, 40 or 60% of women have experienced street-based sexual harassment. So of course, younger men with less education, and men who themselves experience violence as children were more likely to engage in street sexual harassment. Now, although boys and men are victims as well, the majority of individuals identified as trafficked for both labor and commercial sex are women and girls. Traffickers lure, manipulate, control vulnerable individuals using a variety of coercive means. So what are those factors, and what is the risk that increase human trafficking? So they include factors that undermine the ability to protect oneself or that disrupt connection to social and family support. Variables that contribute to a person's vulnerability for being trafficked include also being part of a marginalized group, like, for example, LGBTQ. Prior victimization and trauma, disabilities, immigrant or refugee status, and family disruption. And these may be magnified by globalization, poverty, political instability, and war. Now, sadly, trafficking leaves both visible and invisible scars. So when we talk about this, we're talking about physical scars and also psychological scars. So trafficked women and girls encounter high rates of physical and sexual violence, including homicide, torture, extreme deprivation while in transit. And serious mental health problems result from trafficking, including, of course, anxiety, depression, PTSD, dissociative disorder, suicidal thoughts, and actual suicide. And I can go on and on. Also, physical symptoms among trafficking include neurological issues, gastrointestinal disturbance, respiratory stress, HIV, urogenital problems, and I can also go on and on. So as you can see, this is a very grave situation. So in order to effectively combat trafficking, psychologists and policymakers must collaborate to better understand the deleterious risk of trafficking and exploitation, and prevention and intervention strategies for vulnerable population. Now, child marriage. So during the past decade, the global rate of child marriage has declined, with the global proportion of young women aged 20 to 24 years who were married before the age of 18 decreasing by 15%. So we went actually from nearly 1 in 4 women or 1 in 4 girls to 1 in 5 in 2020. So as a result of this progress, the child marriage of some 25 million girls have been averted. So that's good. However, the profound effect of the pandemic are threatening this progress. Yes, the pandemic again, with up to 10 million additional girls at risk of child marriage in the next decade as a result. So, however, sadly, in Latin America and the Caribbean, there is no evidence of progress, as level of child marriage remain as high as they were 25 years ago. And school-related gender-based violence is a major obstacle to universal schooling and the rights to education for girls. So globally, 1 in 3 students aged 11 to 15 have been bullied by their peers at school at least once in the past months, with girls and boys being equally experiencing bullying. So while boys are more likely to experience physical bullying, girls are more likely to experience psychological bullying, and they report being made fun of because of how their body looks or their hair looks or their face. So this is why they experience psychological bullying more than boys. Now, this is a tough subject. So at least 200 million women and girls aged 15 to 49 have undergone female genital mutilation in 31 countries where the practice is concentrated. I'm not going to go into the details. I'm going to leave the slides up for you to read. But it includes clitoridectomy, intermediate infibulation, vaginal fusing, or total infibulation. So yeah, and half of these countries are in West Africa. And there are still countries where female genital mutilation is almost universal. So where at least 9 in 10 girls and women aged 15 to 50 have been cut. Now on to cyberbullying. 1 in 10 women in the European Union or in Canada report having experienced cyber harassment since the age of 15. And this includes receiving emails or SMS that are offensive and inappropriate for their age. Although this is the best information available so far, the increasing reach of the internet, the rapid spread of mobile information, and the widespread use of social media, especially since the onset of COVID-19, are coupled with existing prevalence of violence against women and girls, have most likely further impacted the prevalence and the increase of cyberbullying. Now, the main question is, how can we stop violence against women? So first, we need to speak up and speak out. Violence against women is pervasive, but it's not inevitable unless we stay silent. We have to know the issue and the sides. We have to educate. We have to call out sexual harassment, challenge beliefs on masculinity, fund women organization, call for better responses and services, demand more data, support women leadership, and build solidarity with other movements. So we're stronger when we work together. Violence against women and girls is inherently connected to other forms of harm and injustice, including racism, homophobia, xenophobia, and poverty. We have to strengthen the fight against gender-based violence by getting involved in other social and political movements and getting activists from those movements involved in yours. So together, we can resist the rollback of women's rights, amplify the demands of feminist movement across the world, and push forward to end violence against women and girls once and for all. So thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I hope you liked it, and I'm open to any questions. Thank you. So if you guys have any questions or not, thank you for listening.
It was really interesting. Thank you, Aro.
Thank you, Clarita. I can't see the chat. I don't know why. So if someone can see the chat and tell me if there's a question, that would be great. I'm going to stop share. Okay, so if there are no questions, thank you so much for listening, guys.
Thanks, Ayo.
Thank you. Bye.